Hello, welcome to Tiny Nest. I'm Kiva.
And I'm Jake.
We've made a lot of progress on our tiny house, but the main reason that we're making this video is because we need your help. We have no idea what we're gonna do with our shower, and it's sort of the last big project, and we've just been going around in circles, and we need some fresh eyes that maybe have some ideas that we haven't thought of, so.
We need some brainstorming in the comments. So we want to show you a bunch of the stuff we've been working on, but at the end of the video, we're going to start up here and go down. We'll end at the shower. So I'll put a timestamp here if you want to just skip to that. So at the very least, look at, what we're dealing with and give us some suggestions on how to move forward with it. So Kiva, what's the state of things up here? Even though it looks like it's kind of a job site, it's actually
almost done, believe it or not. The only thing we need to do sort of in this space where the bed is, in the loft, is put up 2 pieces of trim.
One in the corner along the edge there.
Yep.
And the top. And then that'll allow us to
put in the shelves on the sides of our cabinets. And then this space will be done.
There's also a crack in the wall here and on the other side where we put the wood filler between the panels. And we're just gonna put like a vertical strip. And in this case, it's gonna have to straddle this light. But that would be like literally the last tiny detail up here. So in the last video, we had all of this just dry, sort of prototyped wood. And now we've stained and polyurethaned it. You can see some of the gloss on the clear coat there. And, oh, hi.
Walk-in closet. So these are almost done. We just have to put the shelves in, but we can't do that until I finish up doing the trim, which I'm almost done. I've got about 3 or 4 more pieces to put up. And then we can put the shelves in and then hang the bamboo curtains up.
All right, the ladder is probably the single last big item, the last prototyped item that's in place that needs to get processed. We've got a shelf that we added up here that's going to be mostly kind of decorative stuff. Obviously it's really high, I go all the way down here, it's not really somewhere where we want to store stuff. But if you come down here, I'll show you the hood fan. I think in our last update, this had been sort of processed, but I've now got it fully remounted and everything is totally hooked back up. The fan works on this switch. I've even got the LED light strip, so there's under cabinet lighting in 3 spots, like under those, the main shelf, the corner shelf, and now in the 3rd location on the underside of this hood fan. There's a stainless steel cover, which I sort of had to make from scratch. So this is a lot of doing. There's footage and we'll make a dedicated video about it, but there's just one last task here, which is to sort of put a bit of a sealing, like a weather stripping around where the filter goes, and that will be 100% on this as a sort of contraption being done. The main reason this turned into a whole DIY contraption is that we needed a surface for the toaster oven to sit that was at a good height. It wasn't super high and awkward to get at, and also the depth of where the hood fan kind of thing was had to account for our shallow countertop. And so anyway, it worked out really well now that I've got it, even though it was a lot of work. We just need to get the toaster oven back in here, which was having an issue with one of the buttons, and I pulled it all apart and fixed the button. Now we just need to give it a clean and bring it back in here, and then when it's in place, it will better allow us to figure out where this pipe is going to go. Also to cover this old hole that we made as part of an early prototype of figuring out what we were going to do with this. So we're going to cover that and also get this at the right height, and we've got these loops that I'm going to drill through, and that's going to hang the dish towels. So this is getting real close, just a couple little odds and ends to finish off until it's perfectly optimized. And so carrying on around in this direction, we've actually pulled the kitchen faucet off because there was a bit of water damage starting on the countertop because of where the wood boards meet. And I guess we haven't even put out the video on building the countertop, which we'll get to, but essentially there's a weak point here, and we are taking this opportunity while everything's ripped apart to fix it. So we're gonna like sand it off, get some fresh polyurethane on there. We're actually gonna recoat the whole countertop while we're at it. There's also some work being done on the faucet itself, which I'll show you in a sec. I replaced the drainage. We had like a sort of janky temporary S-trap, and we've now got like a straight down self-closing membrane valve on there. Doing stuff like putting barriers up where the wiring and propane lines are for the furnace and the water heater. So for example, like because our kitchen storage is like wide open, the water heater, like this is the propane line and the water line and the wiring, and it's all kind of been temporarily hooked up with the intention eventually to always sort of section this off. So I'm going to build like a wooden sort of contraption that goes over this so you can't accidentally bump into that. So just lots of little details like this. All right, this is the shower, which we're going to come back to in a sec, but it's always been used as storage during construction. And so here, for example, is the kitchen faucet where there was a bunch of hard water deposits all over it. And when we cleaned that off, it like took off all the coating to this exposed copper. And so we cleaned it all up and then sprayed it with polyurethane to protect the copper from rusting.
And you have it on a contraption that you built
that
it can dry.
Yeah, just to keep it so it's not rusting, and it can cure without it being like getting stuck to the wood or something. And then this is all stuff that's also been polyurethaned and painted. That's part of the hardware for the folding table, which we also haven't shown anything, but the tabletop is down this way. So we'll come back to this in a sec. And here's my desktop, fully processed, meaning stained and polyurethaned, and reattached to the sit-stand adjustable desk frame. And I've even got like a little thing I made and processed for the laptop to sit on, so it's got airflow, and also I don't hit my mouse hand on it. This clamp is pressing some self-adhesive Velcro onto the underside of this shelf where my other monitor sits, but then I'm gonna put the speaker controller mounted to the underside there, and then I had to change the way the microphone was sitting so that it wouldn't interfere with the fact that thing is under there. And then we got like a paper organizer thing for mail and whatnot that would find itself like piling up on the desk. I've got these new shelves that are all sort of tight together with these trays with felt on the underside, so we can easily get at stuff like batteries and battery chargers, USB cables, things that we find ourselves often reaching for, just like super readily available. And then this is the tabletop. So this is just sort of sitting in here curing. I want to do one last pass on trying to smooth out the surface, even though there's 9 coats of polyurethane. And I was sanding in between coats. I want to do kind of like use one of those car polishing sponge wheel things on it to try to smooth it out just a little bit more. We did that on the kitchen counter, and it worked pretty well. There's actually the legs for the table. These are the fold-up legs, and we're just kind of giving it some time to acclimatize and really cure before reassembling everything. And so once the table is like officially done and reassembled and everything, it will hang on the wall behind Kiva there. And there's actually, these hooks are even not fully in all the way. They're just sitting there drying because they've got a bit of a clear coat on them as well. Another small detail in here is these shelves we got in the corner. This one will probably be for something ornamental or like a very small plant or something. This one though is sort of designed as a laptop charging station. You can probably see that there's a wire that goes in through a cutout in the corner here. And then this is just a tablet, but obviously like a larger laptop can be placed here on its edge. It will kind of catch against this front edge, and then you can lean it against the wall, and then the power cord can go there. And it's sort of accessible if you're like chilling here, you want to grab the laptop, you do something, and then you put it away. And then we've also got a couple similar shelves over here. This is actually a dedicated shelf for a Steam controller, because we used to have that tucked up here, and when we're sitting here and then we want to control the TV, or well, control the computer from a seated position with the table and our food and everything like blocking it, so it's either awkward to reach to the table or you gotta get up just a little bit, and it's just like this tiny optimization to have it like within arm's reach, which is kind of what it's all about, making everything just like absolutely frictionless in here. In the bathroom, we're also fixing up the bathroom sink faucet. Again, because of hard water and rust, we sort of cleaned that off and then clear coated it. I mean, it looks like it looks kind of messed up in a way, but we could also just call it like rustic chic or whatever. We contemplated just getting a new one, but then, you know, it works perfectly fine. So it's like a philosophical thing to not want to throw something out and instead just kind of fix it up and get as much use out of it as you can. So it's actually working out well, and I think it's going to hold up, because I actually did a polyurethane coating on this little drain thing, which started to rust, and it's held up to like direct water. So I think we're going to get a lot more life out of both of our faucets having done this little work on them. And then the other thing is we put in some shelves in here. There's still need to figure out what I want to do about this hole, which is part of like an old abandoned, like, I don't know if you can see if the exposure is good down here. There was this whole idea that we were going to vent out of the composting toilet box and like send it out the back of the house through this. Anyway, that's abandoned. So it looks pretty rough up here because we need to figure that out, but we've got kind of like a variety of different shelf sizes here. Like we'll tuck something small up here. We got sort of an idea of what kind of, you know, quick access stuff we'll put here, and then I don't know if you can get the camera in here, but this one's got this one's got like much taller space. You see up here? Yeah. So you can put like a tall bottle or whatever, and then there's a smaller shelf, and it's smaller this way, so that it doesn't affect your ability to reach the push buttons for the lights.
And here we are in the shower. It's actually quite spacious in here, even though it looks like bloody hell, because we've been using it for storage. And we do have a plan for the top. We're going to cover this. This is the shower head. These are the controls that are going to poke through the cover. These wires are for lights, and we have some waterproof LED light strips. What we really need help with is what to do for the sides and the bottom of the shower. And the fender being here adds a level of complexity to that. Some of the ideas we've had for this space has been, one, having the shower like a crazy, like almost like an art installation, like have like a collage or a painting or something like that, and then have some sort of plastic or plexiglass acrylic material that would go over top of that to make it waterproof. But it turns out that that wouldn't really hold up to cleaning or like soap scum or anything like that. An obvious option was tile, but we've been hesitant with that because of the weight. It's quite heavy, and also these walls are 2x2s, so it's not super rigid in here, so we'd fear that it might crack or something like that. And neither Jake or I are experienced with tiling, so it seems like each individual tile with the grout in between could be a possibility to have a leak. Another option that is still a possibility is like a corrugated metal. We have seen that before in tiny houses. It does make it a little bit tricky. We're not totally sure how to get around the fender. It's not our first pick, just because we don't really like the idea of feeling like we're showering in a tin can, but it is an option that we might have to go with. Another option that's like a bit more complex is, we've seen it in one tiny house where they had like a metal sheet, like not corrugated, like a flat metal sheet, and then they had a wood kind of siding, like in a diagonal pattern, that was stood on top of the metal, almost like an exterior siding with the rain screen, how it stood off. And that was really nice because it was like you're inside like a nice wooden structure, but it is a bit more complex to do, so that's why we haven't fully decided on that one. And that would be also difficult with the fender.
The latest idea that we've been toying with is to start by just covering the open framing with like plywood, so we've got flat surface on everywhere, and then using some kind of fluid applied coating that we can, you know, run down the walls and then transition straight onto the floor, and then we can also do it all around the fender and everything, so that when it sets, it's like this monolithic sealed layer of coating, to avoid having to, like, for example, if we did the metal panels, there'd be all these joints everywhere, and especially around the fender again, that we'd have to seal with like a caulking or we have some method of sealing it, and then we'd rely entirely on that one little seal to hold up over time. Whereas if we have like this one completely unbroken seal, it feels like it would be a more confident water barrier. And so I'm trying to think of what we could use. One thing that came to mind is like a truck bed liner, because you know you roll it on or you spray it on. We probably wouldn't want to spray it in here, and it obviously is very durable. It's meant to like take, you know, cinder blocks and stuff that you're throwing into your truck and handle that. And it's also got a bit of grip too, so if it's on the floor, you have a little bit of grip under your feet, which is, you know, there's usually a bit of grip in a bathtub or in a shower or whatever. And if we were to put that everywhere, obviously it'd be this black, like tar look, but the idea is we would then put that wood, the diagonal, like tiger wood boards everywhere and have those stood off from that coating, so that only in between the boards would you see like a dark kind of, it would make it basically disappear. It'd be like a shadow, dark background to the wood. The only problem is, like, truck bed liner is obviously not intended to be put inside a home where you're living, and I'm sure it's like not a very nice chemical and it will off gas really nasty, at least while it's setting. So I don't know if that's appropriate to be using. But if you guys have any suggestions on another product that, I mean, it doesn't have to be black, it doesn't have to have any friction or grit to it or anything, but just something that is appropriate to be used inside, that is like a liquid or a sort of paste of some kind, or like a goop that you can just like slather onto everything to make kind of like a shell. Basically what we're trying to do is, you know, we should have potentially looked into making a custom fiberglass shower stall for this space, but we didn't. We thought, oh, we'll figure it out later, and here we are trying to figure it out, and it's a nightmare because it just seems like it's gonna be like, what the hell are we gonna do here? So, you know, obviously a fiberglass prefab shell is so reliable because it's completely waterproof and there's no seams. It's like, it's molded into this thing. So we're trying to sort of think our way through, is there a way using, you know, some kind of fluid applied liquid thing that we can create the same sort of end result where it's like this unbroken sort of shell on the inside. All right, one other thing about the fender here, I'll explain why I'm holding this broom in a second, is that, like, obviously it's a flat surface here, so even if we coated this all properly with something waterproof, like, water will just run down the wall and just pool on this surface. There's no guarantee that this is angled positively to shed water this way. So I always assumed right from the beginning, like when we were designing this in SketchUp like years ago, that we would build something on here, just some kind of angled platform, so that water will come down, roll off, and go like that. And also maybe we could put some kind of like railing on it and then put our shampoo and soap or whatever to make use of that space, since you can't, you know, stand in it. It's a spot where you could store stuff. However, now that we're talking about, you know, the process of just sealing this at all and making it waterproof, I've been thinking about maybe just turning this entire wall into one big slope instead of like having multiple transitions from one thing to the next. So I have this broom to represent like the angle at which it would have to be, because what I don't want is to have a board come down and then like end up here and then you're like stuck in this tiny little resulting spot. But just using this as a test, because it happens to be the perfect length, like basically it would be like that. So we'd only lose something like that much space because the angle would come past that corner and then come up to just under the window. So I'm really considering basically just putting like a board there and having this wall just be at a slight angle. So keep that in mind in terms of like, we can sort of just completely eliminate the fender, even though it does mean that we're losing like a tiny bit of space. Like, it's actually, I don't think it's gonna be that bad. I think it's pretty good amount of space in here. Okay, looking forward to your feedback. Really appreciate it if you can give us some suggestions, a little brainstorming in the comments. Keeping in mind we are in Canada, so some products that may be available to order or whatever from the US, we might have a hard time getting, especially right now. But yeah, just really trying to figure out something that's not going to be super overcomplicated, but at the same time, we're willing to put in effort to feel confident with the resulting sort of sealedness of the shower. So thanks for watching. We will keep you up to speed with our progress, and we're really, really looking forward to moving back in soon and sort of actually living our true tiny life that we've been aiming for quite some time now.
Hey Jake. Can you fit? Okay.
Go ahead.
Just which size?
Oh, for... there's actually, the legs are up here. These are all just sitting in here, sort of acclimatizing. Oh god, this is like stuck together. This is why I built that contraption for the for the kitchen faucet, so that the poly, while it's, you know, even though it dried for like at least a day or two, the idea is you'd put a laptop here. It can that grows threw me off, and then relying on that, whatever, you know. This is hard.
What are you talking about right
Just
now?
let me get to it.
Okay.
Let me get to it. Okay, you filming?
Yeah.
Okay.
You gonna put that in?
You're still filming. You're still filming. Alright. Sort of shell. What are you laughing at? You're shaking. You're shaking. What are you laughing at?
Just go ahead. Keep going.
I need to trim this down, this explanation.
I feel like you need to explain why, like, all of a sudden in the show you're just holding a broom.
Okay, I will. Don't walk in front.
Did you get that on camera?
Yeah. Oh, get out of there.
You can see me?
You're swinging your arm around and stuff. Okay, I'm filming.
Oh.
Holy shit, man. Can you stay out of the shot for 5 seconds?